Really glad to have you on the programme this morning.
Good morning.
What has dampened the tensions? Why do you think last night ended up going so well?
Well, first of all, I just want to pay tribute to the police officers who've been on the front line over the last few days and then last night as well. So I think that's important that we recognise their bravery and courage dealing with some of the violent criminal behaviour in the streets. Secondly, I think it's worth just paying tribute again to the police leaders for making sure that we had the police officers available yesterday. And the other thing that's important to remember is that we are starting to see that swift justice for people who behave in this criminal way on our streets. The thugs and hooligans who were attacking the police, who were putting communities in fear for their lives, are now in court and are being sentenced. And yesterday we saw one of them up in Liverpool who'd punched a police officer get 3 years for that. So I think that swift justice is really important, as well as the police officers being on the streets.
And do you think that swift justice, those tough sentences, the speed at which this is being policed and the way in which this is going through the courts, does this all act as a deterrent?
I think it's a combination, isn't it? I think that what we saw last night were the vast majority, the law-abiding people of this country, expressing a view that we live in a tolerant Britain. We are law-abiding people. We do not like to see this disorder, this violence, this criminality on our streets. So I think it's that. I think the public revulsion at what happened, the police being on our streets, providing that security and safety, and then the swift justice. So I think it's a combination of things that makes me cautiously optimistic about how this is now being dealt with.
Well, I mean, let's hope so. Let's hope so. But is there any concern from you about Sir Mark Rowley? And I mean, he's praised these communities for coming out last night. Now, as our expert here has been saying, that there is a concern with that. If you sort of put a lot of onus on people coming out, if there had been a clash, you know, a clash of one side against another, well, that actually makes it much harder for the police, doesn't it? Almost becomes vigilantism.
Well, what we were saying in government yesterday was encouraging people not to go on these counter-protests. We wanted the police to be able to do their job and dealing with some of the incidents that we knew were possibly going to happen last evening. And we were saying to people to stay at home. Now, clearly some people, as they have the right to do, came out to peacefully protest, and that's a tradition in this country, isn't it? But I think our advice was not to do that because we wanted the police to have all their available resources on dealing with any of the criminality and disorder that we'd seen in previous evenings.
Are you satisfied with the policing that you've seen managing this disorder over the past week or so? Because there have been accusations, haven't there, of two-tier policing, namely from Elon Musk, who has accused the Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir, he said, and also said on X, his platform, that civil war in the UK is inevitable. What did you make of those comments?
First of all, there is no two-tier policing. Policing in this country is done without fear or favour. I want to be very clear about that, and I think it's hugely wrong at this stage to be making those comments. It's irresponsible to say that. We need to get behind the police, and the government have been very clear. The police have our full support in dealing with this criminality and violence on our streets. The Prime Minister last Thursday convened senior police officers to meet him in Downing Street to talk about what resources they might need, whether they had additional powers that they might require. He was very much then, as is the Home Secretary now, saying that we support the police. They have a very difficult job to do. That kind of comment is completely wrong, and it makes me incredibly angry at this stage when our police are facing this level of disorder that someone would make those comments.
It has to be said, and it's not really been addressed, that I mean, certainly in a lot of places where the violence has been taking place, and nobody, let me be clear, nobody condones that. Certainly don't condone that. But there have been people who have been out peacefully protesting because they're concerned about the state of the country, about tensions over immigration and matters of that nature. That needs to be addressed, doesn't it, by government, rather than just saying everyone who comes out is far right.
Yes, and of course this country has a proud tradition of peaceful protest, and I know people have very differing and strong views about all sorts of issues, but that has to be addressed in a peaceful way. We've just gone through a general election where people had the opportunity to choose a political party that they wanted to be in government. The Labour Party is now in government with our manifesto, but I'm absolutely respectful of people having concerns about issues like immigration. But the thuggery, the violence, the disorder which we saw on the streets, the stoking up of the extremists on our streets is not what this country is about. This is not how we deal with issues of policy. And the government and the police will deal with this criminality. We are united in that, but of course we recognise the need for debate, discussion. That's absolutely part of our tradition.